Ferragato in the blue of Italy. Nobody showing to be really weak in this breakaway, I have to say that, although one or two tend to be struggling on the climb, and I feel a good attack by somebody who's quite clearly been paying attention right throughout this breakaway, despite the fact he hasn't been working, is Johan Museo. He's caught the wheel of 100 mark. He's looked over to see if anybody else is going to join them. There's a counter-attack coming. I think it's Hervé, and somebody on his wheel. Might be Ferragato. We'll check him out as they come up. It's Ferragato, in fact, who is now the first man to join. Oh, there he is. Hervé was just in the crowd line. He's on the wheel, and it's all over. Gianetti comes across. Cameras in. Ferragato. But they have split the group here. There's only 7 of them left. Poutini is gone. The Danish riders have both gone. Peter Menert and Klaus Moller. So they've been dropped on the climb. They might get back on the descent. You may remember the very, very plucky riding by Linda Jackson in the women's race. What an excellent race that was, won by Barbara Heeb. But in fact, Linda was in that 3-woman breakaway, constantly dropped on the climbs and clawed her way back up each time, and deservedly took the bronze medal in the end for Canada. Just award for a very determined lady. And this is another attack, and this time Museo is now trying to hurt them as Hervé's job to chase him down, followed by 100 marked. And Museo, having counted the first move, is now trying to hit them again on the second climb. And look at this now, Museo staring at them and saying, well, come and get me. And they have. And a good time to attack is on the capture, 100 marked. He must be feeling very, very strong today to go again. But 100 marked has gone. Now these riders have eliminated not half of the break, but not far off. I think it's 5 men who have gone, and this counter-attacking is going to prevent them getting back on. 100 mark keeps going, looks pretty cool. Pascal catches up with him, stage winner in the Giro this year as well as the Tour du Pont, and leader briefly. Mauro Gianetti is having a little dig on the road now. He's going to see if all of these attacks has weakened anybody, as Gianetti quickly shadowed by 100 marked. Ferragato tries desperately to latch on over the top of the Crespida. Well, this is about 4 kilometres or so, slightly more from what will be the finishing line. We're at the end of the lap at the moment. Here comes the chase group, and that series of counter-attacks in the breakaway has pulled out a few more seconds. 65 seconds now over the top of the climb. There, and sitting at the back, Laurent Brochard. I'm not sure whether he was in there all the time, whether he's actually coming on from the second group on the road. Down into town. 65 seconds the gap. And that's Poutini in the white crash helmet, so he may have got back to the breakaway. This looks like Claudio Chiappucci now. Well, this is turning out to be quite a race here, because we often do see breakaways go clear in the World Championships, but they really are just for the ride rather than the victory. But I think there's a real sense now in that chase group that the breakaway may have already have gone in this year's World Championship. But it's turning out to be quite a tough chase back. Ferragato. Fabrizio Guidi, I think it is, sitting at the back. And this very smooth, fast descent, good road surface, nice and wide. Of course, those white lines feared by all. It had been raining down here, but thankfully it isn't. Still Guidi at the back, and Ferragato, his teammate, further up the line. The Italians are now feeling a little bit frustrated. This is a typical move by Claudio, who goes too quickly for anybody to keep up with him, and then he looks over his shoulder and says, "Where have you all gone?" And now he's going to have to wait for them to come and join him, because there's no way he's going to cross the gap on his own. And as we speak, it is Guidi who's setting the pace. Puttini, so there's been a little regrouping here. Museu in the third slot. World Cup winner last year. The 2 previous years to that he finished second in the World Cup. He's currently the leader in the World Cup, which isn't bad for a man who keeps complaining about the World Cup, because he doesn't have a sponsor. There is no prizes apparently, and one can understand his complaints. This is the breakaway still the same names that have been out there for an awful long time. Thinned a little bit, missing now the 2 Danish riders and the very heroic Camazin. They've gone. 3, 6, 7 Italians. There were 12 starters for Italy, 7 are chasing and 2 are in the breakaway. So we can get some idea now as Farizin starts the pacemaking. Gianni Farizin. Behind him is Rebellin. And there we saw, just picked up there, one of the Danish riders from the breakaway. So they'll begin to take encouragement from that, as they're starting to wipe out the riders who were dropped from the leading group. Still around about the 1 minute the difference, back into the feed again, as we now head on towards the end of lap number 13. Dropped also is Inigo Cuesta Lopez from Spain. We hadn't seen him for a little while, which really means now we have 7 riders in the lead in the World Championship as they come towards the end of the 13th lap. That means they've done 218 kilometers, about 136 miles under the legs, or under the wheels and in the legs today. Another 40 kilometer, nearly 41 kilometers an hour this lap as they go through, led by Fabrizio Guidi, Hervé, Undertmark, Gianetti, Puttini, Museo and Ferragato. They are the only riders left now in this group. There's no more the pacemaker. He's gone and done his stuff, because his 2 teammates with the better reputation are still in that lead group. Clearly the Italians are not happy with Guidi and Ferragato being in the breakaway. Well, with 13 laps to go, gone rather, and 2 laps remaining, surely they must be giving their 2 riders a chance now. And certainly Guidi here is not interested in the fact that his team is chasing him down as he continues. Onto the first climb of the lap at Camano. Over the top at 3 kilometers on the circuit. It's only a short one. Just one more time up here. Little Ferragato sitting there at the back while his teammate Guidi sets the pace and keeps it nice and high. Pascal Hervé's been very impressive here, but he really is not a man to win from this quality of breakaway. He's not a sprinter for sure, and there's no real hill to crack them on and stay away until the finish, and that might be what the French are thinking as well. Time check around about 55, 56 seconds. And now Guidi, you see, has done all of the work on this climb, and so quite clearly he's had a chat with Ferragato, and Ferragato sitting at the back and taking advantage of the pacemaking is the Italian who may be dreaming of a rainbow jersey. This has hurt Guidi, but he's kept the pace up, and good for him. Pascal Hervé on his wheel. Kai Undertmark has looked very strong, and he counted and then caused a number of moves on the previous lap. Looked very, very strong indeed. He's having a good day, that's for sure. And you could say that the Telecom team are having a good year, couldn't you? First and second in the Tour de France with Bjarne Riis and Jan Ullrich. And still Guidi continues to set the pace. Just one more time up this mountain, and that's what it must feel like right now. Pascal Hervé just keeping his concentration. Unmarked, not really a climber, but can certainly produce some good rides on a circuit designed for the strong man, I think, rather than a pure climber, certainly. The crowd have been cheering now on this climb for just over 5 hours and 40 minutes. Camera switching back. Still Bugno. Still setting the pace. It's strange, isn't it, to see an Italian doing his best to keep the breakaway in the lead, and another Italian doing his best to bring them back into the pack. And there's the switch as we go back up now to Guidi. And I think Guidi has finally decided he's going to have to slow down, and Pascal Hervé is itching to get up onto his shoulder, but not too willing to get into the lead. I think he's going to find himself in there, like it or not, very shortly, because Guidi is beginning to slow. We're now slightly over 220 kilometers into the race. The 252 scheduled, so just on 20 miles left to go, if you prefer miles, 32 kilometers. Which means around about 40 minutes still to ride. And this breakaway may well have decided this race even yet, because the Italians are having an awful job and they're committing a lot of strength with a lot of big hitters back there, and they're not getting up. Johan Museeuw sits at the back about a length off, just sitting up there and soft pedaling as he went over the top of the Crespira. There's the hairpin bend. Climbing on the right, not quite so difficult on the left. But the gap, you can see the relationship now. It's hard to believe that was in fact a 58-second gap. So it may well have come down a little bit. But there's an attack here gone on the break, and this is Johan Museeuw who's gone. Now Museeuw is making his move on the penultimate lap. It's a long way to go for the man we usually consider as a strong sprinter at the end of a tough race. But Museeuw has sat at the back for the whole of this breakaway, and now he's giving it some real stick here. He must have sensed that that main field, or the chase group rather, is closing in rapidly. It's time to have a new selection. And so the World Cup holder and the World Cup leader, Johan Museeuw of Belgium, has launched an attack. Now, has he split the field or will they get across? Here comes the counter move. Mauro Gianetti sits at the back. Kai Untermark, number 76. Pascal Hervé, and I think a little bit of cracking there by the rider Fabrizio Guidi. Big chainring, little sprockets, and this is a power now, a power climb by Johan Museeuw, but he's looked over his shoulder. He's seen he has shaken out a couple of riders, but the others look as though they're going to reach him. And the first one's going to be Mauro Gianetti, who's now dug in very deep. 100 marks got his wheel. And Fedegato is the rider who's tacked on the back. So all of the work done on the climb by Guidi for Fedegato, and he's still on the back, and they're coming across. But Guidi looks as though he's gone. Museeuw now waiting to see just how many have answered the call. In fact, it looks as though only one, because this is Gianetti who's been allowed to get clear over the top of the climb. Gianetti powerhouses across. Gianetti comes across. Johan Museeuw takes his wheel with ease. Now, normally Johan would look over and check to see if anybody else is coming, but I think it was a little bit of a shock to him that he's gone through and he's going to work with Mauro Gianetti. Well, that in fact was an unlucky change of camera there, because this is Andrea Fedegato, not Mauro Gianetti. And the two Italians in a little bit all at sea now. Well, this has not been a race for the Italians, has it? The two Italians in the breakaway tried to make the move. They've been shaken out by, first of all, Johan Museeuw, and almost overshooting there, Mauro Gianetti. 32 years of age. He's got all the experience you can imagine. 10 seasons as a pro. In fact, he's racing his 11th year this year. as a professional, Mauro Gianetti. Not one of the big winners in the world. He's probably won around about 10 races in those 10 years, 10 full seasons he's ridden. But he certainly has produced some good rides. So Mauro Gianetti, 4th in Flèche Wallonne, 3rd in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He won Liège-Bastogne-Liège last year. And now riding himself back into the form, which he hopes will carry him through to the end of term Japan World Cup, where he said he is riding that. Well, that was a good move by Museo. The Belgians have waited a long time to cheer a winner, and I think if he stays away, he won't feel too worried about Mauro Gianetti. But riding, of course, Gianetti doesn't jump him on the last climb of the Crespira, because if he does, then of course there'll be no chance for Johan to use his sprint. But he made complete, well, I would like to say idiot of himself actually in the recent Paris Tours race, because he led out so early. He had no chance of getting any World Cup points. He faded, of course, in the big rush for the line, completely made a mistake and got nothing. And that on a day when he could have stitched up the World Cup, he completely threw it away and handed it back to Bartoli and Ferragato, still within a chance of winning the World Cup and taking it away from Museo. Museo having already said he's no wish to ride in Lombardy or in Japan. Mind you, he didn't really want to ride in the World Championships. He announced his retirement. But there he is, he's riding, and he's now in with a real chance on his birthday, let's remember, when he's 31 years of age, of winning the world title. Last world champion was Rudy Darnans in Utsunomiya in Japan in 1990. And I had the pleasure of being the first person to him with a television camera, and I said, "Congratulations, Rudy, you're the world champion," to which his response was to burst out crying, and I don't blame him. I think we were all crying in the end. He got so emotional. So Johan Museo seems to have refound his enthusiasm for the sport. Only a few days ago he'd lost. And I take my hats off to the Swiss this week. They have ridden to the occasion. They've been in the action and given the Swiss fans something to shout about at every event in the World Championship Series. And now we've got the big one, the blue ribbon of world cycling, the World Road Race Championship. And again, they've got a Swiss rider in at the kill. I think they'll be feeling a little unsure he can take the rainbow jersey. They will hope he can jump away on the last climb if they stay clear. This is what's left of the breakaway. And Puttini there sitting at the back having a drink and enjoying watching the three other riders in the chase. They're far from safe, by the way. The bunch is still... This is the return of the two Italians. Ferragato, who is doing the pacemaking at the moment. Well, this isn't he. This is actually Andre Taffy who's coming up here. These are men from the back who are joining the front. This is a complete change around here, because they are reaching what was left of the breakaway. And this is quite amazing in the end, because this is a total switch around here. So there are changes at the back, and very shortly that breakaway, I think, is going to be wiped out by the chase group, because the Italians are reaching the quarry. They will know then that there are other Italians, Ferragato, have been washed away from the lead, and they will also have been told, no doubt, by Ferragato or Guidi that these two have gone clear. So Mauro Gianetti, a local man and also, of course, a native of Switzerland, is going to get a lot of applause here now all the way around. While Johan Museo, the winner of Paris-Roubaix this year, a controversial end indeed, yes, because there were three riders on the same team. We can't call it a sprint finish because they decided the order across the line, and it went like this. It went a win for Johan Museo, Gianluca Bortolami, who later crashed in the summer and broke his elbow in the Giro d'Italia, and in third place Andrea Taffy, who has since come good and got his first big classic win. That was the order in Paris-Roubaix way back in April, and many Americans who joined us at World Cycling Productions on a cycling holiday were there to witness it, and we had a great time. Well, you won't find Gianetti now reducing the work rate. This is a man, a silver medal would be a good one. That was a brief glimpse, I think, of Fabio Guidi, who's just sailed backwards. This is the breakaway now being driven on as the Italians have changed their colours at the front. Andrea Tafi is up there now. And of that breakaway, the Italians have still got to do a lot of work to pull back these two. The gap is on for sure. Mauro Gianetti rode the World Championship for the first time in 1988, and he finished 5th. In the same year, he in fact finished 7th in the Tour of Switzerland. But in his first 3 years as a professional, he only ever won one event, and that was in his first season back in 1966. That's 1986, I'm sorry. He's not quite as old as that. There's nothing to, when you look at the faces of these two, they're telling us nothing at all, are they? They're both climbing very, very strong indeed. Last big climb now of the Crespera, and then it's on to the finish. And finally, they'll hear the bell, and it's 1 lap to go. 1 lap of 16.8 kilometers, just over 10 miles. Taffy goes through unmarked. It looks like it's goodbye to Pascal Hervé. He's got nothing here. Puccini is gone. Here's the gap. Kai Undermarkt, who finished 4th in the World Championships at Stuttgart, but now looks as though he's not going to be able to control affairs here. And Andrea Tafi, determined to reach those leaders, has come through, and he's still got a fresh pair of legs, it seems, on the inside ring, but a lot of fight here as Andrea Tafi now starts to move clear in pursuit in 3rd place. What a great climax this is going to be to the World Championships. Andrea Tafi, the rider I first saw win stage when I'd never heard of him in the Tour of the Americas a few years ago. And now, this year, the winner of Paris-Brussels, his first big classic win. He started out as a pro back in 1989 when he won a stage of the Tour of Luxembourg. And now Richard Virenque for the first time. The French haven't had things going their own way at all in this World Championship, yet the strong men have all been there watching and waiting. Now they've seen Pascal Hervé in trouble. They're going to have to do something about it. All of the cheers, not surprisingly, reserved now for the local man, Mauro Gianetti. Johan Museo, his only worry at the moment, and it's a big one, because Museo will feel very confident he can beat Gianetti in the sprint. Although in fairness, Museo not the great sprinter as you get older, and he's a day older today because it's his birthday. You tend to lose your speed and you become more of a stayer. The stamina takes over and you're a better long distance cyclist. It happened to Sean Kelly as well, when he wasn't the great sprinter over the last few years of his career, but he often won races by breaking away. Over the top of the Crespera again. Here's the style of Andrea Tafi. Another 30-year-old in the race. Man who was given the 3rd place he didn't want in Paris-Roubaix now comes up, and look at the gap. He is flying over the top here. 22 seconds down, and Tafi could be the surprise world champion if he gets across. He's obviously strong. Kai Hundertmark again enjoying a world championship of quality. He goes over in 4th place. Remember, it's one more climb in the Crespera yet. And in fact, a Frenchman here, is it Pascal Hervé? It looks like it might be. Hervé and Puccini. But that breakaway has been blown across the hillsides here at Lugano and is now taking on. This is Ferrigart, who is slipping away. And he's lost almost a minute. Michele Bartoli here in front of Laurent Jalabert. It looked as though the little rider there for Spain was Escartin, who's trying to pedal across the gap in third slot. Bartoli and Jalabert looking pretty cool. Richard Virenque is also there. Bunyo. Bobby Julich has got into this very, very hot selective group. So good ride by Bobby Julich, the leader of the USA team in the event today. The other riders in with the orders to make sure Julich could be in at the kill. And he might well be yet, because that group is closing down. Penultimate descent, back down into Lugano. Museo sets the pace. A little bit less confident on the descents, Mauro Gianetti, than the Belgian rider. That's the situation. Taffy is coming. 100 mark has been passed by Taffy. And these last 2 years, Andrea Taffy has turned him from a hot domestique into a team leader. Here he is. Must be feeling now there's a medal awaiting him next time around. And will it be gold that he can just get across this gap? He's giving it a lot of heavy speed down here. He's not riding the corners too well, I must say. And he must know these roads pretty good now, having done it 14 times so far today. So there's Gianetti, flying proudly the white cross of the Swiss flag as the top pros ride for their countries. And quite often it causes split loyalties, because any other day they might even ride on the same team. But on this one day they ride for the country, and they're not expected to help out teammates of their trade team. This is the finishing straight that, if they stay away, Museo will see a difficult straight to judge. It's not completely straight, there's another kink in it, but it's a kilometre to go. It's a sprinter's finish, but it calls for absolutely inch-perfect judgment, otherwise you'll run out of steam before the line. So it's best not to mention Paris Tours to Museo right now, because he blew that one in a big way. And this is the chase by Taffy. He's now in the same straight. He'll begin to see the little gaggle of cars around the two leaders. Andrea Taffy won a stage of the Tour of Britain back in 1990. In the summer of the same year, he won 2 stages of the Tour of America, or Americas, down in Florida. Now, the move from France, is this it? Because they've got themselves organised with Virenque and Jalabert. But I'm not so sure about that. But there is the winner of the Tour de France in at the selection now too. Bjarne Riis has got up here. Well, they're leaving it late, but it could be a grandstand finish. Approaching the finishing line, the bell this time. At this moment, just about 17 kilometres left to ride. As they come up to the line, just on 6 hours of riding, we're going to get a time check now across the board. Huge cheer for Mauro Gianetti. Johan Museo is back, probably tingling with excitement now. The chase down coming from the Italian Andrea Taffy. And a reorganisation of the chase group here. They've slowed it right down. They're going to throw this away if they continue like this. Escartin dancing away on the wheel of Jalabert, who looks a little bit frustrated. Bjarne Riis is up into third place through the feed here, but the gap is still big, at least between this group and the two leaders. Taffy is the one who could give us the problem. Well, not give us the problem, I suppose, but certainly give the Swiss-Belgian tandem a little bit of trouble. 1 minute 6 seconds. That was Hervé goes through. They are still caught in between. Now this is the group here, led by Jalabert, Bartoli. Romigan is still in here too. 1:21 to Bartoli. Bobby Julich leads over the best of the rest. A great ride by Bobby. So Julich riding with superb confidence after that superb ride he put up in the Tour of Spain. 22 seconds to Taffy, and Gianetti looks over his shoulder. They must know. Museo also looks over his shoulder just to make sure, because it's no good asking the rider alongside you. He'll probably tell you lies anyway. On the climb of Camano. Here comes Taffy. The Italians have twigged on. There's still a chance. Excuse me, sir. The barriers. I got you. And that man should play for Britain in the Rugby Championship. And so, Taffy, will he reach him? What a great finish for Andrea Taffy if he could. Richard Virenque setting the pace. Bartley, little man behind him. This climb, I wonder. I don't think Giannetti will go on this one, but he's got to go on the next one. On the Crespera, if he wants to beat Museo. Otherwise, it'll go back. Advantage Museo. Museo knows that he's not going to offer any help at all here to Giannetti, because he knows if he gets in front of him, Giannetti will probably jump in from behind. So this has been a fine ride by Museo, whichever way it goes, you know, because here he's ridden a crafty ride in the breakaway. He used no energy at all. He found himself in the move. A lot of young cyclists could take a lesson from Johan Museo today. This is the chase. Now he looks straight ahead. He might even see them now, you know. On around about 20 seconds. 24 is confirmed. So in fact he's being pegged here by a fine piece of riding by Mauro Giannetti, who's climbing very, very well today. This is still another attack here coming from Virenque. Axel Merckx has got his wheel. And Merckx has done a great job for Museo. He's blocked whenever he could every attack, while showing for me the strength that might well put him into a medal slot should the breakaways be caught. Bugno is there as well. Over the top of the Camano. Sitting right back on the saddle, Mauro Giannetti goes round the roundabout, where the graffiti artists have had a field day. Further down the slope, Gianni Bugno, Richard Virenque, Axel Merckx are going clear. Bugno has also ridden well today. Even so, a little bit frustrated by the way it's worked out for the Italians. Giannetti never even asked for the help of Johan Museo. He knows the situation. He knows Museo will not help him. Giannetti will be seen as the climber, Museo as the sprinter. Into his inside ring now, Museo. The need for the big ring not quite so necessary, because it was needed for the attack that broke up the breakaway. But now it's a matter of conserving just enough strength to take the world title if Taffy doesn't zoom up at any moment. I think it's down to 3 now. I don't think anybody else will reach them. Taffy, even his chances are beginning to look a little bit thin because he's not coming quick enough. And here, the Italian is ready with his flag for Andrea Taffy. But I think the gap is opening up, and it's all because of the climbing of Mauro Giannetti. And what a great crowd this has been. Cheering the riders every inch of the way. The organisation will feel they've put on a good show this week, and they certainly have done just that. They've been blessed with very good weather on the whole. But the riders I know, particularly Johan Museo, doesn't like the season going quite so long, taking the World Championships into the month of October, and the second week of October at that. They feel it's making the season just that little bit too long. I think what we're going to see in the future is riders planning their whole racing year with holiday break-offs in between. And so you'll see riders do well early on and then literally take time out for 3 or 4 weeks and then start to come back and build up for the world title events. Others will ride the Tour de France and forget the World Championships. But I think that's the only way these riders are going to survive now what is a tremendously long year at the top level of racing, a sport which has now become even harder than before, I think. This has been a very, very fast championship today. The average speed isn't going to be far away for the whole distance of 40 kilometres an hour. There is Taffy. He's forced to climb on his big chain wheel. But I don't think he's going to catch up now. Look at the clock. Maybe. The French will claw the way back into this, but I don't think they're going to get up to the leader now. This is Richard Virenque. Bunyo can't really, can he? Not when Taffy is still up there, and he's just seen, I think it's Michele Bartoli rejoin, so the two Italians now, as Richard Virenque nips over the cobbles. And it looks as though Richard again is going to fly the French hope in the World Championship. He won a medal in it last year. No, 2 years ago, actually. The time flies. He won it in Italy when he got the bronze medal behind Claudio Chiappucci and Luc Leblanc, who became the world champion. Then he had a rather sad year because his sponsors pulled out of the sport. However, that's another story. This is the story of this year's World Championship now, with Mauro Gianetti. Never afraid to work. Johan Museo looks as though he's trying to dodge the workload even on the descent here. I don't think Johan is riding that well, but he knows if he can contain Gianetti, he should produce the power sprint that would take away a rainbow jersey at a time when he would least expect it. No finer day, of course, on your birthday. And an acceleration now by Museo. Not exactly waiting for Gianetti. Well, he is now. He's sat down. Gianetti takes a break. But Museo not wanting to do a lot of work here. I haven't seen a team car come up, but I would presume that somebody, Eddie Merckx particularly, would have told Museo the chase by Taffy looks as though it's foundering. Heading down. It's going to be a very nervous finish now, especially for Mauro Gianetti, who hasn't been able to do anything at all about Johan Museu. Have no signs and no further news on the whereabouts of Andrea Taffy, so that's an indication that he has held or lost ground. We know there is a group coming up. Virenque is in there, so too Axel Merckx, Gianni Bunyo. No further news of them at the moment either. But now they are saying if 54 seconds now is the gap to Andrea Taffy, so he's out. He may well get the bronze medal, but he's out of the race for gold, and the championship of the world now lies between these two, and Johan Museo, I think, can afford just that slight chance of dreaming. He checks over his shoulder. 55 seconds to Taffy, a minute 12 to the chasers after that. Gianni Bunyo, Axel Merckx, Richard Virenque in that chase group still. Michele Bartoli was the rider we saw latch on. And there's a little bit of a time check coming from the neutral service Mavic. Well, both riders understand French, so they'll both know the gap. And immediately inspires Museo to do a little bit of the pacemaking. So Museo was the man who had a dig on the climb of the Camano. Gianetti was the man who was inspired enough to bring him back on his own in the end. It seemed at first there was going to be a group, and it wasn't. Gianetti was the only one to reach him. This is the chase group. Bartoli, Virenque, Merckx. Bunyo does not appear to be here. The gaggle of cars up ahead, you know, I think these riders are catching Andrea Taffy. There's the confirmation of this group. I think Taffy is just up the road. He is. So Andrea Taffy is being caught. Can he hang on for that bronze medal? We've gone back to the leaders now and licking his lips in anticipation. Johan Museo of Belgium.